Hey, this is Chris with Ugly.Teacher.Hiking. Today we're going to look at a titanium stove with an integrated pot stand and stand on the bottom to keep it off the ground. Should all alcohol stoves have this? Let's talk about it. Ugly.Teacher.Hiking. I hike it so you don't have to. Today we're looking at the alcohol stove Tiandlife. It's a very odd name for a stove, or for a company. So it comes through Amazon in a very nondescript packaging. There's nothing on the packaging. Let's take this out. Comes in a Ziploc bag. The stove has a built-in stand, 3 legs, a pot stand on top, which is pretty ingenious. We'll get into that in a minute. It's a non-polished titanium finish. It feels like it has a texture on it. It's non-reflective to a certain point. We have the rivets that are holding these on. These are fairly loose, the top ones. The bottom ones have some resistance. And I'll explain the top ones, why I think they're loose in a moment. Look on the bottom. It feels like it's not concaved or pushed in. It feels like it's kind of bowed out a little. So it's going down like this, which I find a little strange. It doesn't allow the alcohol or fuel to push to the sides, but we'll see when we do our burn test. In here, we have the stove part, the evaporators. So let's get into looking at sizes. Let's look at the size of this siphon stove. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the diameter of the stove itself. We're at 2.2 inches or 56 millimeters. Let's look at the dimensions from one of these legs to the side. So that's 2.6 inches, 2.6 inches. I'll put the millimeters up. That's 66.1 millimeters. Let's look at the height. The height of this. Height is 3 inches. Height is 3 inches or 76.4 millimeters. 76.4 millimeters. So we're going to take the dimensions of the main body itself. From top of the cup to the bottom on the very edge, because it is bowed out, 1.65 inches or 42.1 millimeters, 42.1. Now let's go for the dimensions in the middle, or at least as much as we can. We get 41.8 millimeters or 1.64 inches. 1.64 inches. It's titanium. Now I said about these little pot stands, we'll get into that after we weigh this. let's look at the weight of this. We're at 1.6 ounces. 1.6 ounces. We'll put the grams up in the upper right hand corner like I've been doing. So that's 1.6 ounces. The great thing is it has a stand. It keeps it off the ground. And these, we don't need an additional pot stand, which is always an issue. Now let's look at this. Why I think these are loose like that. We'll take a look at that. Now, when we rest the cup on top of this, you can see there's little nubs here on all three of them. The minute the nubs get pushed down, it pushes these up. So it gives you that extra stability on whatever cup you're using. I'm using my 550 Toaks, and this is probably the lightest I'll ever go using this. And everything from here is going to be bigger. So here we have the gap, and this should really burn really well. I'm excited to try this one. I've always been curious about the ones with the stands built in, whether they're worth it or whether they're not. We'll talk about that more. So we made it outside to the courtyard. We're going to look at this Tianium alcohol burner. So right here, I put in my typical routine, the cup that we use typically. Pot grabber, hot lips, and here's the actual burner itself. Put that off to the side for a moment. I was able to fit a lighter in here. So open that up. So it's Tiandlife. So we're going to need the actual Toaks 550 for this. As we can see, it's about 40 degrees out Fahrenheit. And put it on top. So we're going to put the water in. We're going to use our typical 2 cups. We got our 2 ounces of heat. We're going to use that. But since it's a little windy today, we're going to try to hook up our windscreen. Now we're going to run into an issue with this. I already can tell the windscreen may be a little too small, so we're going to have to come up with a different plan. So we're going to use our Toaks titanium windscreen. It has 4 different panels. Let's get them separated. Now I just wanted to show you how this won't fit. It's too small, way too small. So we're going to do a modification, because if you were in the field, you would have to do this. We're just going to disconnect one side. Leave that. Do that. Oh, looks like it actually turned out fairly well. It's still a little breezy. It's a little cold. Remember, everything we do here is approximate, from the measurements to the amount of time. It really depends on water temperature, air temperature, and everything else. So we try to keep everything consistent, but we always can't be. So we're going to pour the heat into this. That's a full 2 ounces of heat. All right, let's see. Might have to move the shield out of the way for a second. Okay, that took really well. Move this back. It's hard to see, but we're going to put the water on top. And we'll try to change the angle. We're at 30 seconds at 70 degrees. 30 seconds at 70 degrees. So it's moving pretty good. Now you can see that the lid's not on all the way. It's like everything else I've said earlier, that everything's subjective. It's one of those things, it's not going to be the same when you're out in the field. It's not going to be the same here or wherever you are. So we're at 2 minutes, or a little more than 2 minutes, like 2:10, at 98 degrees. The wind has really kicked up, so this isn't going to be a consistent test, but it will show us that this can actually boil the water, hopefully, and that the windscreen is working. So we're at 3 minutes 10 seconds at 115 degrees. 3 minutes 10 seconds, 115 degrees. It's going along. We'll get there, I think. I'm thinking around 7 minutes. What do you think? We're at 407, 133 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going. It's cruising. Remember, click like and subscribe. A lot of people are watching, but they're not subscribing. So please help me out. Help me with the YouTube algorithm. We're at 5 minutes right now at 148 degrees. Looks like it's slowed down a little bit, but it's still going. Still got plenty of fuel in there from what I can see. We're at 6 minutes 10 seconds, 164. I gotta give this thing credit. It is pretty windy out here. It is very windy out. Usually there's no wind. So we'll see where we end up when we're done with this. But we're cruising along. So we are at 7:20 right now. It's 178 degrees. It's very windy out, so we gotta give this thing a lot of credit. It's very windy out. The stand for the pot is doing excellent. The whole stove is really nice. I really was debating on how it would go, but it's holding up very well, especially with all this wind. And that windscreen is holding up very well. We're at 8:12 and it's 192 degrees. We're so close, so close. So we're at 8 minutes 54 seconds. We're over 200 degrees, almost to the boil. So I'm getting ready for our coffee. We're going to do a little Nescafe today. And while we wait for the fluid, the heat to burn off, we'll see how long that goes. All right, we're at 207. 207, we're going to call this. So at 9 minutes 30 seconds, 9 minutes 30 seconds, it was boiling. Let's take this off here. You can see the fuel in there. There's just a little bit left. It's still burning though. Man, I'm really liking this stove. I like the integrated pot system, the stand. I like that it's off the ground. We'll talk more when we're drinking our coffee in a moment. We are almost out. I can see it just sputtering right now. But I can still see plenty of blue flame coming off the top. We still got a little going. Now, I could still see where I originally did the review of the stove itself, how it was convexed, so curved at the bottom. I can see where some of the heat has pooled in the middle and just burned itself off. And we are out. There's no more heat left. So while we're waiting for this to cool down, we're going to make our tea, our coffee, our Nescafe. We're going to use our Toaks 550. We're going to use the hot lips. Put on that side. I like to use my right hand. The best little glass jar in the world for this type of thing. We got Nescafe and a little sweetener in there. I'm trying out a new spoon. It's a Kapilka. I don't know. I haven't had it for about a week. Just trying out on whatever I can. We'll do a review on it eventually. So final thoughts on the Tianium and Life siphon burner, alcohol burner. It's a great little stove. The integrated pot system, holder on top, stand on bottom, great. This has only been like maybe a minute after we actually did the heat test. So it cools off real quick. You gotta love titanium. So the question is, would I suggest people buying this? Yeah, I like it. The only issue I have right now are these. They can be fairly sharp or rough. So you want to make sure how I had it. I had it wrapped up in some kind of rag that you can use to clean your pots, your tent, or whatever you need for it. So what are your questions and comments about this? Please put it in the comment area. Remember, click like and subscribe. And as always, I do this so you don't have to. I drink this coffee so you don't have to. Nescafe for a win. Have a great day.